You're watching RTV News with me, Jane Mutoni. His Excellency Amade Mekidade has become the first Mozambican High Commissioner to Rwanda to be based in Kigali. Rwanda and Cuba have signed an aviation cooperation agreement. A warm welcome to the news in details now. His Excellency Amade Mekidade has become the first Mozambican High Commissioner to Rwanda to be based in Kigali. Now this comes as she and 6 other new diplomats presented their credentials to President Paul Kagame on Tuesday.
This becomes the second consecutive day the Rwandan head of state has received letters of credence from incoming high commissioners and ambassadors.
It is an honor for me as the first ambassador resident in Kigali to be on this opportunity to address the letter of credence to His Excellency President Paul Kagame as the Mozambican designated ambassador, but now ambassador in charge. First of all, I would like also to thank you very much to the people from Rwanda, because the great connection and the great help which is addressing to the people of Mozambique. Everyone knows that in Mozambique we are facing terrorist attacks, and the Rwanda authority has decided to go and help Mozambique with the Mozambican Defense Force and the Defense and Security Force as well to combat the terrorism. In the situation now, it's much better, and we can see people going back to their own environment where they were. So as Africans, we have to help each other. It's like in a family. We need to help each other to make the family to be comfortable on all situations which can appear. That's why we see that the approach between Rwanda and Mozambique, it's a lesson for the continent, it's a lesson for the whole world.
The diplomats are looking forward to boosting ties between their respective countries and Rwanda.
Ethiopia and Rwanda, the Republic of Rwanda, we are brothers and sisters, and our two governments are working together for the betterment of two countries, for the betterment, economic betterment of Ethiopia and Rwanda, for the political and cultural betterment of both countries. So, as an ambassador to be assigned in Kigali, I'm so happy to be here to work with the officials and the people of Rwanda.
Setbacks encountered in recent times are also to be overcome.
This indeed negatively affected our trade, because in 2018, the trade between our two countries amounted to 18 million US dollar, but last year the number is only less than 1 million. So we are optimistic with the easing in pandemic measure, we will be able to bring it back to pre-pandemic level.
An emphasis was also made on the importance of African countries working together in the interests of the continent's people.
President Kagame is very, under his leadership, not only in Rwanda, but even in our continent, in Africa, it's very great personality. So we're very impressed by his personality. So we discussed during this meeting, of course, bilateral relation between Tunisia and Rwanda in many fields, the main field of health, education, culture, economic, and also about the next two important events for Africa, for Tunisia and for Rwanda also. The first one is TCAT 8th, who will take place in Tunisia at the end of August 2022, and also 18th Summit of Francophonie and it will take place to be held in next November 2022.
Even far beyond the African continent, Rwanda's diplomatic efforts have spurred confidence in what can be achieved.
We are looking forward to expand our bilateral relations, and we are going to concentrate in that areas where we can bring a value added to the current state of things in our bilateral relations, and mainly that will be education, and this is and we are in fully accordance with the vision of the president, the vision to 2050, and then it will be agriculture, and then ICT, cybersecurity, and any other sectors of interest.
Countries with long-standing relations with Rwanda are also looking to build upon those ties to break new ground.
Cuba and Rwanda established diplomatic relation in May 9, 1979. This year we'll be celebrating 43 years of the bilateral diplomatic relation. It's a pleasure to be the designated ambassador of Cuba here. And my big commitment is to work to achieve bilateral cooperation project by the mutual benefit, according to the principle of the South-South cooperation and the high level of the political relationship between Cuba and Rwanda.
Another to present his credentials to the president was His Excellency Zahra Ali Hassan, Somalia's new ambassador to Rwanda.
Rwanda and Cuba have signed an aviation cooperation agreement. Now, the agreement is meant to boost the transportation of goods and people between the two countries. Take a look.
The bilateral air service agreement is crucial for both countries when you consider the distance that separates them.
From a practical perspective, what we do in the airline is we're constantly tracking where the demand is. And as Rwanda, we're not only connecting Rwanda to the world, we're connecting Africa to the rest of the world. So now as we said, we have an opportunity to connect Africa to the Caribbean, and more specifically to Cuba. So in practical terms, if this allows us to put our foot in the door, we can now, from a codeshare perspective, partner with any other airline that's currently flying to Havana. So we can initiate those discussions if we see that there is demand from the continent to Cuba. And the BASA also spells out, it goes into technical details in terms of the applicability of this arrangement, whether we have fifth freedom rights, which means we can pick passengers from another country and then proceed to Cuba, making the route more viable. It spells out the details of how we implement the code share, all that stuff. So it really, it's a fantastic thing for the airline, for both countries, because it gives us that opportunity to explore commercially what is viable.
The agreement is an opportunity for the continent as well.
For natural reason, the historical generation link Cuba and Africa is disappearing for natural reason. And in this moment we have the responsibility of this agreement is an opportunity, but at the same time we have the responsibility to do many things in order to avoid that the historical relationship between our countries doesn't disappear.
Rwanda and Cuba have bilateral relations that span 40 years.
Agriculture experts and researchers believe that the agriculture sector should focus on research and technology to provide better solutions that will enable Africans to have enough sustenance, as in many countries, population will have doubled by 2050. The African continent accounts for more than 60% of the population that depends on agriculture. Out of the 1.2 billion total population, it is also a continent with a large population that still uses traditional methods of agriculture. During a 3-day conference of agricultural researchers and experts in Kigali, Dr. Canisius Kananjiri, Executive Director of the African Agricultural Technology Foundation, explained the need to consider the use of technology and research to find an increase in agricultural productivity in line with the growing population. Despite the fact that many African countries still have very low agricultural productivity compared to other countries, the Director General of Rwanda Agriculture and Animal Resources Development Board, Dr. Karangwa Patrick, says that Rwanda has already made some progress in terms of research and agricultural technology, while Dr. Edgar Traore, head of Burkina Faso Research Institute, points out the need for efforts to ensure that Africa has the right agricultural productivity. Dr. Martin Weiler, the Director of Knowledge Management and Program Evaluation at the Africa Union Development Agency, emphasized that improving agricultural technology is the key to addressing the issue of insufficient productivity.
Is that Africa needs to cultivate economic growth pathways at all levels, all the 55 countries, economic growth pathways that underline 3 things. 1, human well-being in terms of food security, nutritious security, in terms of poverty and inequality elimination, in terms of health care, education, and other parameters that, of course, define human well-being. And we're talking about the highest level of livelihood for our people.
The meeting took place as Malabo Accords stipulate that at least every African country that has signed a budget allocates 10% of its national budget to agriculture and 1% of it is invested in agricultural research. Only so far, no sub-Saharan African country has been able to achieve this feat of Africa's goal to eradicate hunger by 2025. Artists and intellectuals say they are proud of the progress that has been made in protecting intellectual property rights. However, they are calling on their fans to become more supportive. Isabel Masozera reports.
Rurangwa Jean-Marie, a Rwandan living in Canada, says despite the fact that he has created good and quality art in Rwanda and abroad, he still relies on other income streams to survive because his craft alone cannot support him. My manuscripts are many and they are well written. That's why publishers are quick to publish them. But most of the time, publishers benefit a lot more than we. They tell you they will sell the book at 1,000 Rwanda francs and only give you 10%. And sometimes you can't even know how much they have made. Rurangwa and other Rwandan artists as well as intellectuals credit the government's investment in technology for the progress they have made in addressing some of their financial problems, courtesy of the money they have successfully raised from their craft in recent years. The industry is expanding. There's so much we can achieve if we leverage our creative pool and strategically deploy our resources. For example, imagine if we made our own software and sold our work. That would be tangible progress. Thanks to the power of technology, we now have online platforms one can use to promote a book and get many buyers, which has been really helpful. It has been noted that in order for Rwanda's intellectual property owners to thrive and develop, different stakeholders have to work together. We have to encourage artists to come together, collaborate and create quality content that is rich, and also help them connect with other artists and financial investors here in Rwanda, the region, and beyond. The Registrar General, Rwanda Development Board, Richard Kaibanda, says Rwanda has made great strides in ensuring there's notable gains for intellectual property owners, including updating non-timely laws and setting up institutions to protect their art and activities.
We have to keep moving with the way the world is moving, the new technology, etc. So there is this continuous exercise to review the laws, the policies, and for instance, I may say that in 2018, the intellectual property policy was revised to replace the previous one, because there were new policy directions that were needed to ensure that we remain with the relevant legal and institutional frameworks. But also I wanted to highlight that the intellectual property law is also being revised, and currently the draft is before the parliament that is looking at it. All these are meant to include new developments so that we don't have gaps, we don't have gray areas when it comes to the protection of intellectual property, but also the law should be conducive or attractive to investors from different corners and in different areas. So these reforms are meant to achieve such objectives.
In 2009, Rwanda enacted the intellectual property law that amended the previous one that had been introduced back in 1980, making it easier for artists and intellectuals to protect their work and art. The government of Rwanda recently submitted to the National Assembly a draft bill that seeks to amend the 2009 law with the aim of meeting international standards and protect artists as well as other stakeholders. Abel Masozera, RTV News.
Thank you, Masozera, for that report. Now, Marathons Rwanda has created a software for commercial purposes. One of its prominent elements currently functioning in Rwanda is access to health professionals for consultation and medical prescriptions. Precious Kirezi reports.
Health counselor Nhingura Jean de Dieu is measuring whether a child's weight and height balance each other out or whether there's a pattern of eating disorders that could lead to a gross stunting. With the help of the Iheza software on his phone, he was able to understand the measurements and was shown what should be done about it going forward. When the software has dictated a problem, recommendations of medication that could fix the situation are made, and in case it is critical, the patient is referred to a health center. This technological development was well received in the health community, and parents claimed the service is faster and more efficient that way. They asked me where my child's vaccination form was, and when I said I did not have it, I was surprised by the form being displayed on the phone along with all the information I need to know regarding my child's health. I was pleased by this because the only reason I had for a phone prior to this was for calls I wanted to make or receive. 80,000 people have already signed up for this technological development so far, and it is being used in 30 health centers and 10 daycare centers as well. The goal is for the software to have 250,000 users by the end of the year. Iheza's administrator Teofilo Huriro says that 474 councillors in the districts of Gasabo, Bugesera, Rulindo, and Gicumbi were given cell phones with the software in it that do not need an internet connection to be functional.
Due to the pandemic, we had to change our direction of business from the normal retail sales to strategic projects, basically with strategic partners. We are currently working with a number of strategic partners in different sectors, be it healthcare, education, transportation, agriculture. One of the biggest projects we're working on actually right now is with the National Institute of Statistics. So this year's census will be done using a Mara smartphone. They have acquired about 30,000 devices. The future is very bright. Our vision was to launch new models every year, and we have tried our level best to keep up with that, even despite the pandemic.
A search on Google indicates that Rwanda has around 4,000 different types of software that can help the country attain its goal of being able to provide services using technology by 2024. The country is also looking to raise digital literacy from the current 20% to 60% by 2024. Precious Chirezi, RTV News.
Well, there you have it. On behalf of the entire news production team, thank you so much for your company. I'm Jane Mutoni. Bye for now.